So hey YouTube family and friends, this is Rev with Revving Up Car Productions or Sprucing Up the Home. But today we're going to be working on our own 2020 Chevy Trax all-wheel drive LS model. We've had this car for almost 1 year now. Next month will make 1 year. It's been an outstanding vehicle. We've put about 9,400 miles on it since we had it. So when we bought it, we had 21,000 on it. We got 30,380 now. I wanted to do my 30,000 mile service at 30,000, but I'm at 30,380. But we got everything we need to do a 30,000 mile service. So let me flip the camera and show you what we got. Of course, we got our Valvoline oil. It's 5W30 full synthetic oil. We've got our oil filter, and since we use synthetic oil, I got the ultra synthetic Fram, and the number is XG 10246, and that's the part number for that. Then we have our turbo oil feed line. Okay, because all the Chevy Trax, Chevy Cruze, and the Chevy Spark, they all have a 1.4 Echo 4-cylinder turbo engine. The Chevy Sonic doesn't have the turbo, but it has the 1.4 liter engine, so small it doesn't need a turbo. Then we have front and rear brakes. Okay, I get all my parts at AutoZone. So the rear brakes, the part number is DG2168. Now on the front, they need to know whether your car was made in Mexico or whether it was made in Canada. And I called the dealer, gave him the last 8 VIN numbers of the vehicle. Comes back, mine is from Korea. So the front brake pads matter. So for those of you, if you know your model was made in Korea, the front brake pads are DG219. And then I have the AC Delco spark plugs. Also, I got from AutoZone. I don't really know what the part number is on this, but when I take the plug out, I'll give you the plug number on it. Then we have the Duralast ignition coil. And for all you that know these 4 cylinders, we don't have individual coils, but we have a coil pack. Now here are the front rotors. I'm gonna see if this has a part number, which it should. And now these are for you that have the Korean model that was made in Korea and not Mexico. So the part number here is 720270L. Okay, made in China, But of course, the parts for the car was, some parts of the vehicle was made in Korea. So there you have it. That's all you have for a 30,000 mile service. But there are other things to look for in a 30,000 mile service. You want to make sure your fuel system is operating properly. You want to make sure your EGR system is working properly. And you want to check your boots, your CV axle joints and boots. Make sure there's no problem. You want to check your exhaust system, your drive shaft. You want to check for any oil leaks, coolant leaks, freon leaks. You want to check all your lights and rotate your tires. Check your tire pressures. Check your tire depth to see if your treads, if you need new tires or not. And mostly the functions on the inside of your car, your AC, make sure all that's blowing well, and that pretty much covers a 30,000 mile service. So while the car is still cool or haven't been started, we're going to be doing this parts in phases. So I'm going to do the spark plugs and the ignition coil, and since the car hasn't been started, I can change the turbo oil inlet feed, and shouldn't much oil drip out of that. Now you're going to need E10 sockets. These cars are filled with E10s, or the E style sockets, E10s, E9s, you know, probably some T56s you're going to need. So be prepared for that, and don't try to use 14-point sockets or anything like that, because you will strip bolts and you will regret that. So go out and get yourself some E10 Torx and sockets. So let me begin by just getting the plugs and the coil. That's the only thing we're going to do right now, and then later on at some point today we'll take her for a drive, get her all warmed up, and we'll get her up on ramps, and we'll change the oil, and we'll change the oil filter. And once we're under there, we'll inspect the CV axles, the boots. We'll check the exhaust system, the catalytic converter system. We'll check for soot on any of the exhaust, near the exhaust clamps and bolts, to see if there's any leaks. We're going to check for vacuum leaks under the hood and all that good stuff. But for right now, we're just going to change out the coil pack, put in new plugs, and put in the new turbo oil inlet feed line. And you can tell a lot about your engine by your spark plugs. Are they burning evenly? Is there a lot of corrosion on top? Is it burnt where the spark plug fires? On the bottom of the plugs where the screws are, or should I say the part where you screw it into your block, does that have oil on it? That tells you you have either ring problems or you have valve seal problems. So you can learn a lot from your plugs. So at 30,000 miles, I'm curious to see what my plugs look like, and I'm curious to see what how this coil pack comes off, because a lot of times the boots on the coils get stuck down there, and I'm curious to see when I change the oil. Last time that oil filter was very disgusting. I couldn't believe that somebody changed that after 5,000 miles. So we're not quite at 5,000 miles yet. We're a little under that, probably around 47 700 miles. So we're about 300 miles earlier, so 340 miles, probably 320 miles to be exact. And I'm curious to see how that oil filter looks. Okay, no further ado, let's grab my stuff, and I'm gonna go up front and begin to do the stuff. Okay, our gap was correct at 28 thousandths of an inch. So you want to take and lift this cover up. It's supposed to lift straight up. I'm gonna have to do it with two hands. I can't do it with the camera on, but we'll be back. Okay, so what you do, you take and you lift it straight up, and then it'll hold up like that. And then see these two tabs in the back, one there and one there. I just took my fingers and did like that, separated that side, and this exposes the coil pack. And this is the coil pack. And I keep my engine pretty clean, so I don't see no need to blow anything off as of yet. So now what we do, this right here, you pull this back, let me get my little tiny screwdriver. Get your little tiny screwdriver, and you just take, trying to get the light angle for you so we can kind of see what we're doing. And right in here, you just want to push this back, that tab there. Once you push that tab back all the way, then you can just squeeze down on here, and that separates the coil pack. Then you're gonna need your E something, I don't know exactly which one, or T56. Let me try a T56 and see if that does it. See if I can find one here. Okay, you get your T56 and you want to loosen these up. And I like to put my screws up here so I don't lose them. And you see that wasn't very tight. Now this got 30,000 miles on it, so I can't hold this camera and pull this out with two hands. But what you want to do is pull up on this side, pull up on that side, rock it back and forth. You want to be able to pull it out without breaking the coil boots. So we'll let you know how that goes. So the coil boot, the coil pack came out without a struggle, and as you can see, you can still see a little bit of dielectric grease that's in there. And this coil pack is actually in excellent condition. And if you look down in here, there is not one piece of dirt in here. No oil whatsoever. No debris. So I don't have to get my blower, my air gun, and blow anything out. So it's a 5/8 socket. And that's going to get these out. By the way, this is one of your vacuum things on here. If that goes bad, you got to replace the whole valve cover. So that's another thing to check for. And you'll know the check engine light will be on. Thanks. think that's what that is. Some kind of vacuum, something done with the vacuum system anyway. But anyway, let's get these plugs out. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you do it by hand first so you don't cross thread these, and it should pretty much screw in pretty easy. So I'm going to go through screwing all of them down tight by finger, and then I'm going to tighten them the way they should be tightened. So that's how you put plugs in. And I am a label nut, so you can see I have the spark plug labeled number 1, 2, 3, and 4, so I can look at them for future references, so I can see how they're burning nice and even. Okay, so now we are going to begin to tighten them, and you don't have to over tighten them, wrist tight about right there. And you start to feel a good bit of resistance. That's when you want to loosen up on it. I want to make sure that little O-ring didn't come out and stick on the plug, which I think it did. Let me look in here and see. So I heard her click back in, and she's back in place. So we got our coil on. So let's wipe our little fingerprints off. That's just me, folks. I just like a clean engine. Y'all know me from Mustang Fanatic Productions and how clean my Cobra was. All right, so now we got that done, and to install the cover back on, we're simply just going to put these tangs. I gotta move my light. Put these clips, one in and one out and over, and then we just, and she's back on nice and tight. So the tune-up part of that is over. Now if you notice, on my evap system, which is right here, all my hoses are nice and clean, and I lubricate them with the cleaning supplies that I use for all my wires, and that way they don't rot out and dry out, and they last a lot longer. I've noticed that in the Mustang, so I continue with that. So the next project is to get down in here, and we want to change the oil feed tube, which I'm gonna have to remove the heat shield in order to get it. I shouldn't have to remove the heat shield, but I can't see where the other end of it is, because you got one right here that has to come out, and it's probably about an E7 that holds that in, and the other one is on this end, which I can't see. is supposed to come in behind through here and plug in to the turbo. So let me get that done and we'll be back. Okay, the spark plugs are AC Delcos, and they are 555-85517. So that's 555-85517 for the AC Delco spark plugs. And they should be gapped at 28 thousandths of an inch from the factory. So it says do not gap. But I don't know where my other gapper is, but I have an old school one. I have a 25 thousandths of an inch and then 3 thousandths of an inch. And I'm going to check the gap on this. Like I said, I have a clean engine, so I'm not worried about debris getting into the spark plug holes. But everything was good. And here are the plugs. Starting from the left, that's plug number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they have actually, I'm impressed after 30,000 miles. They look pretty good. The tips are not filed, and their plugs are burned pretty even. That's what you want to see. There's no oil on the threads. That's what you want to see. That's plug number 3 and plug number 4. So AC Delco plugs, they say you can go 60,000 miles. But me, I'm a car nut. So I'm changing my coils and plugs at every 30,000 miles so I can get maximum fuel efficiency out of this vehicle and not have any problems with carbon buildup. So I'm gonna change them as often, like I said, every 30,000 miles. I'm gonna do a 30,000 mile service on this because I want this engine to last pretty good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take out and put in the new spark plugs. And these don't have any, there's no signs of never cease, so I won't put any on here. I normally do, but these came out pretty good after 30,000 miles. So I'm just gonna put these new AC Delco plugs in now. Yep, the little rubber O-ring inside the 5/8 socket stuck to it, so I had to pull the plug out to take it back off. Sometimes this can be your friend or it can be your enemy. Now we take the new coil out of the pack, which I did, and what I want you to see is, if you can see in there that little blue stuff or silver stuff, that's dielectric grease. You want to make sure that that has dielectric grease in there, or else these coils will get stuck. And I'll show you what dielectric grease looks like if I can find it, because I thought I brought some over. But if you've seen me do tune-ups before, dielectric grease is just something to stop things from sticking, and the plugs will come out a lot easier. And I could have sworn I saw that dielectric grease. I've used it quite a bit for tune-ups. If you've seen me do tune-ups before, you saw it comes in a little tube that looks like, you know, a RVT sealant like this, but it would say dielectric grease on it. And just my luck, I don't know what I did with it. I really have to do a nice cleaning on my bench I've been neglecting this bench for quite a while, just throwing stuff on it. That's shame on me, but I wish I could find that dielectric grease. I don't need it, thank God. If I did, I would have been in trouble. I would have had to wait till AutoZone opened at 7, and it's pretty much 5:30 in the morning right now. So we'll go on without the dielectric grease since we already have it on it, and I don't see it nowhere up there. So I thought I brought it over. I guess I didn't. Okay, so now we put this in the right orientation. Slip it down over the plugs and push down until it's firmly seated. And we think we got it firmly seated. Then we want to take our T56 Torx and get them in. And you don't have to go mad tight with these things. I mean, you're going into aluminum, so you don't want to go mad tight with them. What did I do with my T56? Here it is. Let's just run it down by hand until it gets tight. That way we know we're not stripping the threads. And it doesn't matter the difference, the color of the coil pack, long as it fits. That's the main goal. Okay, we got it down by hand. Now we're going to find our socket. And we're going to give these things a nice little snug. There we go. Nice little snug. There we go. Then we take our electrical cord. If I had dielectric grease, I would put it in there, because sometimes these things can really get stuck, you know, especially this little pin right here. But I'm gonna just take and get some dust off. And we're going to snap her in place. I heard the snap, and we push this back in. It's hard to do this stuff with one hand. So here is my little E-Torx socket set, little 17 piece, and you get the Torx bits, and then you get the E-sockets, and they're used for the internal and torque fasteners, so internal and external ones. So we're going to be using the external to get the heat shield off, and the internal to get the oil feed line in for the turbo. Okay, the appropriate size was internal E10, and they weren't on tight at all. So when you go to put them back on, don't snug them real tight. Just get some tension on them. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put a little bit of never sees on these. Now this is going to give me access to the oil feed inlet pipe for the turbocharger, and we'll be able to look at the wastegate under here and see how that's doing. Okay, so now we got the bolts out. We just want to wiggle that out of there. I can't do it with one hand. So here we have a better shot of the turbo inlet oil feed line. Let me see if I can get a zoom in to show you the oil feed bolt. There it is right there. That one right there. And then the other one is down under here that we have to get to. One, these are external, so a T56, and probably the other one is internal, probably an E10 will get that one off. So let me start with the E10 one, because that has a bolt. So we got the lines in, we got them tightened down pretty tight, and so I got a new oil inlet feed tube with the proper wrapping around it to protect it from getting all caked up, because it gets real hot sitting behind the manifold. So this is your wastegate right there, and there's the actuator valve that it connects to. That is serviceable by taking that little, it's a little pin right here. You can take that pin out, and these two bolts right here, and then it comes out, and that actuates your turbocharger. So everything else is looking good and put together. So now we're going to put our heat shield back on and put those little E10s back in, and that's going to do it. Alrighty, God bless. Thanks for watching, and this is just the first half of a 30,000 mile service where you see me change the spark plugs, change the coil pack, connect the coil pack back on, and we change the oil inlet, or should I say the turbo inlet oil feed tube. And so the next stage is, I'm not going to crank it up right now. It's 6 something in the morning. Later on I'll crank it up, take it for a good ride, get the oil hot, and we'll change the oil in it and the oil filter. And then if we can, if we feel good up to it, we'll do the front rotors and brakes and do the rear brakes, and that's going to cover that portion of the 30,000 mile service, with the exception of looking and checking other things out that's underneath the exhaust. Like I said, checking for leaks, vacuum leaks, checking my CV axles, my boots, making sure there's no leaks down there, and looking for any coolant leaks, oil leaks, any kind of brake fluid leaks, just general inspection. And we'll be rotating our tires, checking our lights and all that stuff. Alright, God bless until we see you next time. And hit that thumbs up button. Rev it up, Car Fanatic Production. So we started the engine. Everything is running nice and smooth. And I've put my new Chevy seat cover in. I'll let you look at it. I gotta get some of those little hooks though, to hook the rest of the stuff in, but I got tired of messing my material up. So we got the head cover, this, and the seat. We gotta get some hooks to hook them all together. I got Rob it was only one for $39. I thought two come with it. So we'll go back and get the next one tomorrow. But I did that while the car was warming up to get the oil up to temperature so we can start part two of our 40,000 mile service. And we're just gonna change the oil in the oil filter. And I am very interested in seeing what that oil filter looked like after the last oil change. That filter was disgusting. I can't believe that went 5,000 miles looking like that. So we're gonna see what that looks like. So with no further ado, I'm not gonna show you an oil change because I did an oil change online before. I mean on YouTube, and show you how to do an oil change exactly with this vehicle. So we're just gonna do the oil change and then show you what the filter looked like compared to the last time. You'd have to go back and look at my YouTube where I did an oil change on my 2020 Chevy Trax, the first oil change. And so this is the second oil change. I did the first one at 26,000 and some change. So now I'm doing this one at 30,000 and some change. And we'll see what the oil filter looks like, if it looks better or if it looks about the same. All right, we'll chat at you later. So it wasn't my imagination, folks. That is the oil filter after not even 5,000 miles, about 4,700 miles, and it is disgusting as the last one. So yeah, it's good to change it every 5,000 miles. I mean, that oil filter is just plain disgusting. Wow, unbelievable. All right, let me change these rubber grommets out and put the new filter in. I tell you, YouTube family and friends, Rev It Up Car Fanatic, sprucing up the home production. My little 2020 Chevy Trax, I'm very impressed. Again, I'm surprised the oil filter was so filthy after just 3,400 miles. Actually 4,500 miles or 4,600 miles, pretty close to 5,000. That's why it's important to change it every 5,000. The manual says 75 and your dealer tell you 75. 5,000, especially with a turbo. The turbo loves clean oil. And then the oil inlet feed line that I changed this morning. Okay, and while I had the car up on the ramps, I checked my CV joints, my axles, the boots. There was no leaks. I checked for coolant leaks, oil leaks. I checked for freon leak, transmission leaks. I looked at my exhaust system. I looked at the fuel lines. I looked at the vacuum lines underneath. Everything seems to be intact. There's no soot nowhere around any of the exhaust leads. The axles seem pretty good. So this is part two of my 40,000 miles, 30,000 mile service where I changed the oil, and I use 5W30 full synthetic Valvoline oil, Dextrose 1, and she is running great and sounding good. And I just got her sitting level over there, let the oil drain down back in the pan to make sure I got the correct level of oil inside there. And that's going to be it for the day. The next thing is going to be to do the front rotors and brakes, and then the rear brakes. And we're going to check the front axles to make sure that the axle nuts are nice and tight, because it doesn't have a cotter pin. It's just got one of them little edges where you take a little round tool or a screwdriver and you bang it in so the axle nut doesn't back out. So we just got to check those and rotate the tires, check the lights and all that stuff, and we'll be good with our 30,000 mile service. That's Rev It Up Mustang, or Rev It Up Car Fanatic production. Thank you for watching. Give us a thumbs up, and God bless.